Hi everybody. Today I'm going to be going over how to make a Karplus strong kind of synth in Bitwig using all Bitwig native devices. You can do this probably in any other DAW, but I of course will be using Bitwig. And I came up with the idea because I saw Polarity put out a video recently about how to use incoming pitches to move the EQ frequencies to target the ones that are relevant to the incoming pitches. And huge shout out to Polarity. You make awesome stuff. Thank you for all that you're doing. If you're not familiar with Karplus strong synthesis, here's the Wikipedia article on it, and what you do is you just send a sound, a noise, into a really short delay, which I'll be using a comb filter for, and then it creates this feedback loop. And if you don't know, when you have a series of clicks or a series of any sound, it creates a pitch to our ears. So, for example, if you hear 262 clicks within a second, that'll sound like a C3 to us. So, if you send a click into a delay and it is set to play 262 times in a second, it'll sound like a C. And I don't know the other frequencies off the top of my head, but you can match them to create that pitch. So I really like this kind of sound. I use it a lot in my music, and this is the one that I ended up coming up with in Bitwig. And that sound ended up inspiring this whole loop. So pretty cool, kind of organic, almost stringy, metallic kind of sound. And I've previously used Serum to come up with those kinds of sounds. Here's what this other Serum patch sounds like that I made. And so as you can hear, pretty different. So I'm just going to go in here, I'll delete the Serum patch and recreate something pretty similar to the original Bitwig patch that I made. So first thing I'm going to do actually is put a tool device on here and put the volume to 0, because some of these first sounds I'm going to be making are going to be pretty annoying. So what I'm going to use to generate the sound that we'll be using is a test tone. And I will go here and set this to white noise. That's what that sounds like. I'm going to turn the mix all the way up. And now I'm going to turn the gain all the way down. And I want this to just send out a series of clicks. And I'm going to put an LFO in here. And I will set this LFO to kilohertz. And I'm going to bring that all the way down. So as you can see, that's still moving pretty quickly. And I'm going to assign that to the gain here. And now that's doing that. Doesn't quite register as a note yet. If I sped it up, it probably would start to. Clearly not very pleasing. Okay. So now I'm going to put a segments in here, and I want to use this because I want to have this loop function in here. I'm going to set the grid to 16 by 16. I want this to be playing 1/16th note. This is going to start off at the top and come down to here. Now I want this to be, let's see, on the 7th. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So one more over here. Curve it kind of like that. Now this is going to be on the 14th node, so 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14 here. And this is on the 6th. Yeah. 6th, okay. And now this one curved down a little bit, and this one is going to be pretty straight. So now in this blue section here, it's going to be doing a ping pong, just going back and forth between that for as long as the note is held. So what I want to do here now is go back to my LFO and, sorry, here we go, turn the magnitude all the way down. Now is going to modulate the magnitude up. So if I play and give it some volume, still not very exciting, but it will be, I promise. And lastly, on the test tone, I'm going to put in an ADSR, give it a pretty short pluck here. And this now will modulate the speed up just a little bit. All right. So first thing that I am going to do here is put a comb filter. So a comb filter is just a really short delay, and as you see, you can set it to the specific frequency that we want. I'm going to set this to 262. That's C3. And I'm going to set the resonance, or the feedback rather, just a little below 100%. Now this should just be playing a C. Okay. Now I would like this to vary the frequency that the comb is set to here based on the incoming pitch. So I'm going to put in a relative key track, and I'm just going to modulate this an arbitrary amount and come over here, and I'm going to make it 60. And that's because when this is set to C3, it's going to modulate it the correct amount relative to the note coming in. So now let's see. All right, so that's just basic Karplus synthesis ready to go. Now what I'll do is group this, and I'm going to double it 4 times so that I have 5 of them. You can just hit Command D. I'm on a Mac. Whatever shortcut you have on Windows will work too, of course. Now, actually, when I made this, I put the harmonic series in incorrectly, and I ended up liking it more that way than with the harmonic series done properly, so I'm just going to leave it that way. Oh, you know what? I'm also just going to throw a limiter here in case anything gets real loud. So I can probably take that off now because we don't have this annoying test tone going all the time with the envelopes and everything going here. So on the second comb, I'm going to set it to C4. And now this, I'm going to set the resonance, feedback a little bit lower. Third one is going to be G5. I think this should have actually been C6, but as I said, I ended up liking it a little bit more. So G5. Resonance for this one is going to be somewhere kind of like the other last one. A little higher here. You can adjust all the feedback to get different sounds. So that one's G5. Sorry, I think this should be actually G4, C3, C4, G5, E5. E5 really would come before G5, but I went out of order. That's okay. This one will be, again, about the same here. And for the last one, I'm going to do C6. That's not right. This should actually... Maybe this is C5. Yes, it is. Okay, maybe I did do the harmonic series correctly, and I just didn't realize it. So now this one I found sounded a little bit better with the resonance a little bit lower than the other one. So let's see how this is sounding now. So that has like an almost Middle Eastern or sitarish kind of resonator kind of sound. In and of itself, it doesn't sound that fantastic. So I'm going to add delay 1 here, set to 16th notes. I'm going to add a couple of blurs in here. I'll just change these up a little bit. Of course, you can play with these to get different sounds. And I'm going to take the mix down a little here. You'll notice that sounds a little pitchy, but I thought it was kind of cool. And I don't know if that has to do with the relative key track or just the way the harmonic series is working. What else? I'll have a delay plus set to dotted eighth ping pong. And put some ducking. I want to actually add some saturation. And I'm going to add also a compressor. And I'm going to set the compressor to dual and bring it up a little at the end here. That might help a little with the sustain. That's too much on the top there. Okay. And lastly, I'm going to put some convolution in here. And I liked this one with the Austrian spring. Maybe just a little chorus. Okay, cool. So now actually that's like a more traditional way of doing it, but the way that I did it to begin with was with the Filterbank. So now I'm just going to mute that comb layer here, so we're just going to be back to noise. And after all of this, I'll put Filterbank. Sorry, I always do that. Resonator bank is what I meant. And what I'm going to do here is now put in the harmonic series. So that's going to be C3, C4, E4, I think, what is it, C5? Sorry, this should have been G4, not E4. G4, C5, E5, and G5. And actually, if I recall, I had an EQ back here, and looked something like this. We'll adjust that when we actually know how it's sounding. So now with the Filterbank, Resonator Bank, you can just turn the key tracking on here. I'm going to throw some glide on it. And I'm just going to crank the resonance way up here. So now let's see how this sounds. And that obviously keeps going for quite some time. That sounds pretty good. And again, as you can see, you can get really different sounds just by adjusting the resonance. You know, you could get different sounds by adjusting the magnitude of each of the frequencies down here. And just, you got all kinds of different sounds just by playing with these parameters that you've got here. So what I ended up actually liking the most, as I said, I did this first and then I came back and tried out this version. But I really liked both of them together. Now this, I think, does better with a little less drive. And if you want to, at this point, you can now put this tool device back on. Just because this is, you can still see this has some sound in here, you could throw an AH DSR or an ADSR on there. And now this you can use to shape the overall sound. And I did find that this did pretty nicely if I threw on another EQ5 here. Mine is set to have the high pass and a high shelf, so I'm going to change those to bell. So what I'm going to do now, again, is not that, I want the frequency. I'm going to put in, again, the harmonic series, so C3, C4, E4, C5. I did this wrong again. It should be G4 for the third. So G4. 4, and E5. E5 is going to be the last one here. I'll put another relative key track here. You could, of course, put this all into one big chain device and use the same relative key track for everything. I didn't do that. That's, you know. So now I'm going to do the same thing here. I'm going to assign arbitrary values to all these. Click on the key track here, change them all to 60. And now I want this one to cut some of the other frequencies. So now I'm just going to pull these down 4.5, 5-ish dB and set the resonance to about 10 here on all these. So this is just going to cut the exact frequencies I'm putting through at this point. Maybe I'd like these to actually be stronger. So that's kind of helpful, you know, because it does tone this down a little bit, but what I ended up doing here is shifting this up 2 semitones. It just kind of cleans it up a little bit. And of course you can change these to get more or less. Or, of course, boost, but that would probably be a little weird. Where is my... Okay, so this release is too long. Or maybe I just want to adjust the curvature there. All right, so now here's what it sounds like in the loop. You could, of course, put the relative key track on here so that it's doing the same thing with those frequencies. I don't think I'm going to do that right now. Maybe some more reverb, but that's the idea. And as I mentioned, this new one does sound a little bit pitchy, especially on some of the higher notes. I think you just need to go through and adjust some of these parameters in the resonator bank and maybe in the FX layer with all the comb filters here. You know, maybe adjust the feedback a little bit and get that more into tune. I think it does sound kind of cool with a little bit of that pitchiness for this kind of vibe. Probably works a little bit better for something that's a little bit more modal than if you have a chord progression, because then those pitches would probably sound a little bit more out, whereas in this case it sounds kind of microtonal in a somewhat more intentional way. And one last thing I wanted to mention here is that if you want to get some more overtones, octaves in this, the way to handle that is I'll start off here by putting a transpose. I'll leave this one set to 0. Now I'm going to select from the transpose through the resonator bank, hit Command G, or you can right click and select group. So now this is just the same thing, but it's in a container. Now I can double this twice, and first one leave to 0, second one octave up, third one octave down. Let's see how that sounds. Pretty loud. I'm not sure why that was getting so loud with the limiter on here, but I'm not going to worry about it too much right now. So that's just one last little thing you can do if you want to. And that's it for today, and I'd love to hear what you're coming up with these. If you like the video, please hit like, subscribe, leave a comment. And I really appreciate you taking the time to watch. Hopefully you enjoyed it. Hopefully you learned something. And I will see you next time. Hi, there's one more thing that I wanted to address that I neglected to mention in the video. I only talked about using white noise in this video, but you can use any sound. You can go back to the original test tone and change it to pink, and you'll get a different timbre. And you can also load up a sample. You can set it to loop in the sampler. You don't have to do all that volume modulation like I did in the beginning. You can experiment with any of the parameters, and you're going to get an interesting, different sound, different timbre, and of course also playing with the default frequencies in the comb filter or resonator bank will make a big difference. Okay, that's my last point. Thanks for watching.